Hello, I'm David Hinks, Dean of the College of Textiles at North Carolina State University. The U.S. textile industry has a remarkably impactful and rich history and helped build strong economies and communities in the North and Southeast. Textile manufacturing launched the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s, and while there have been many disruptive changes, it remains a leader in today's economy and the emerging Industry 4.0 that marries advanced manufacturing with the Internet of Things to create new automated systems and customized products that improve our lives with minimal impact on the environment. Many of these companies that have made textile products right here in America for more than a century are still going strong because of their innovation. And they are joined by hundreds more companies, many venerable in their own right, that apply their trade throughout the textile and apparel supply chain, producing everything that is fiber-based. In the U.S. textile industry, we design, develop, and market the next generation of advanced fibers and textile materials that not only enable us to produce fashionable clothing for the nation and the world, but protect our military and first responders, form the composites for new airliners, and enable advanced filters that clean the air we breathe and water we drink. In recent years, new life has been breathed into those companies that innovated and modernized, and it's truly exciting to see a resurgence in the U.S. textile industry as a result. In the College of Textiles at NC State, we are also a supplier of top talent, research, and professional services to this great industry. Companies are expanding, opening new plants, hiring again, and frankly doing some pretty amazing things. If you're a student who is ready to get your mind blown, go visit one of these new plants and see the incredible ways automation and digital technology are impacting the factory floor. The innovations being created and the sustainable products and processes being developed are amazing. Still today, textiles remain a large contributor to America's GDP, and the industry is the fourth largest exporter of textile goods in the world. The strides the industry has made over the last 2 decades have happened because of people. People who love textiles, who collaborate, innovate, and care deeply about the industry and our planet. They are the owners, leaders, and managers, the professionals, and the highly trained operators and support personnel who work diligently every day to keep the industry relevant and prosperous. And they are the thousands of suppliers who keep these plants running with the latest equipment and products. Which is why today, I'm so proud and privileged to endorse an endeavor organized by the Southern Textile Association, the U.S. Textile Industry Heritage Project. In this initiative, this group, itself a 100-year-old plus organization, is conducting video interviews with many of the movers and shakers of our industry over the past century. The purpose of this project is not only to preserve these important stories for generations to come, but to offer a glimpse into the spirit and mindset of leaders who have made a difference in this industry and our communities. Whether you're already a part of the textile industry, are interested in starting a career in the sector, or are just interested in gaining an historical perspective, I strongly encourage you to watch these interviews with these remarkable legacy leaders. Each has a unique story to tell, and I think you'll see the passion each has brought to the industry and how their dedication and devotion has positively influenced their companies and this great industry. Enjoy.
I'm here today with Lang Ligon. Mr. Ligon, you formed your company, Lang Ligon & Company, in 1962, the year I was born. And here we are 55 years later, and the company is still chugging along, serving the textile industry, and you're still working full-time at age 95 and a half.
Still chugging along.
How do you spend your days on the job these days? I'm here today with Lang Ligon. Mr. Ligon, you formed your company, Lang Ligon & Company, in 1962, the year I was born.
You was born, yeah.
And here we are 55 years later, and the company is still chugging along, serving the textile industry, and you're still working full-time at age 95 and a half.
Still chugging along.
How do you spend your days on the job these days?
Well, I'm still coming in, well, a little bit late now. It's 9 o'clock instead of 8, and but I still go home about 5 o'clock.
And still drive?
Oh yeah, still driving. Been really blessed on that, and so we have some I have two good sons who have really taken on, they themselves have been in textiles all their lives, and so they fortunately took after their mama, and they're real smart. So they able to run the company better than I ever was. So we fortunately are still in business, even though the business is not like it, of course, once was. But thankfully, it's a good bit better than it has been.
For sure. And you come in, and I'm sure you're an inspiration for everyone here.
Well, I don't know that I'm an inspiration, but we don't see anybody retiring real early like some of them used to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I think there are other reasons for that, but I think they think twice before they retire at 65 now like they used to.
Yeah, that's for sure. They have to with healthcare and everything the way it is these days, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's true too, but we have some good people working for us, and we have some newer people working for us who fortunately we were able to get hold of, because they're kind of difficult to get hold of these days.
Yes, absolutely.
They're a real concern.
It's a real challenge throughout the industry.
Real challenge.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, let's back up a little bit, and tell me a little bit about the impetus behind starting the company. How did the founding come to be? What got you into this?
Well, I've been in textiles since I was in high school, because my daddy was in textiles. He was Southern manager of Abbott Machine Company many years ago, and in fact he started with Abbott Machine Company in 1932 or 33.
Wow.
And at that time they had one machine in proximity to mills in Greensboro, North Carolina. That's all they had down south. However, they hit it right, because they had equipment which wasn't the best on the market, but it was the cheapest on the market, and mills were expanding at that particular time. It was right before the Depression, although you think it was during the Depression, but it was right before the Depression. And so the cone mills particularly was doing well. So they bought a lot of equipment, and so Abbott Machine Company started really doing well. And as such, my father, who was a good salesman, because people liked him, and he stuttered a little bit, but people trusted him, and he made many friends in the textile industry. He was known well, which was very helpful to me. And so I worked, when I was in high school, I was working in mills in Georgia and Alabama, places like that, because he'd send me with his fixers.
Oh, I see.
And so he had good fixers who was keeping the eyes on me so that I would behave. And I behaved pretty well, evidently, because I think he paid me something like $1 an hour, which wasn't bad.
No.
And so naturally I followed in his footsteps and went to Clemson and graduated, of course, in textiles, although I graduated not from Clemson Textile College. I graduated from Clemson Agricultural College. That was the name on my diploma, Clemson Agricultural College. But anyhow, it got us through. And so I worked for Milliken for 4 years and learned a great deal from that fine institution. And then I went to work for his company for about 12 years. Then after that, I decided that I knew a few people too.
Yeah.
and that I was going to start my own company because I thought I could get some good lines, because people more and more was securing lines from Europe, because Europe now had come into its own in the brilliance of their educated technicians and other technical people, but especially the technicians, who I've always admired, because I knew a fair number of them that were just exceptional people, because they trained from the time that they got out of grammar school. They trained into that stuff. They were good, and so they were capable in making new equipment, as anybody at that time knows. So we started getting all the good stuff out of Europe. So to make a long story short, we started in 1962, and were very fortunate to get hold of good lines, and were able to feed the family and grow, and the Lord blessed us, and we were able to continue going to today.
Who were some of your early, I don't know if you call them clients, from the ones you were buying the lines from?
Well, the first sale I ever made was to Cone Mill's White Oak plant, $300. I sold them some used equipment. I had to go down to Georgia and pick up some what we called cams. Had to clean those cams up with some Varsol and get all the old oil and grease off of them. It was 100 of them. I sold them for $3 a piece, and I got that check for $300, and that's the best check I ever got in my life. And so that gave us a lot of hope, and we had, I think, well, I sent my oldest child, my daughter, we sent her off to Queens College in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1962. Started the company in 1962. We counted how much money we had in 1962 personally, and it was $13,000. And we hoped we could make it through the year. And that $300 helped us. It got us started. And so we kept going from there. Cone Mill was big. A lot of the mills like Dundee Mills and not so much in Greenville, but I went to the mills that I knew that had the equipment of Abbott Machine Company in it, because I knew the people in them. So much of the stuff was in Georgia and in Alabama. And so at first I did a lot more work in Georgia and Alabama, and somewhat in North Carolina than I did in South Carolina. So I was on the road a great deal. So all the mills, seemed like most all the mills, bib mills, big business with bib mills in Georgia. And of course, later on, of course, it was Burlington's, J.P. Stevens, and more Milliken, as on into the 60s and 70s.
These were spinning and weaving plants.
These were spinning and weaving plants. Yeah. Then it all changed so unbelievably. So knitting is a big deal with us today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to get to that, a little bit more about your history. Before I do that, let's back up a little bit more and give me a little information as far as growing up with your parents and the family dynamic and the values that they taught you as a child. I know that's been strong in your family.
Oh,
this
yeah.
day.
Oh yeah, well, of course, I guess it all started from the fact that both my mama and my daddy was their parents, their fathers, both my mother and my daddy, both of them were Presbyterian ministers. And at that time, Presbyterian ministers were about as tough as, when I say tough, I mean they were very close adherents to the belief as exposed in the Bible, which is what it's all about. And they instilled it on my folks. They instilled it on us. They didn't press it on us, but they let us know that's what life was all about. And so we grew up with that. We not only grew up with it, but it's totally the basis of our belief in life itself. Jesus Christ is what it's all about, and He's our Savior, and He expects us to do right and to follow Him and to bring people to Him for the welfare of the people, because He loves us all. But anyhow, we were brought up right, and we had no excuse not to be right. I'm not saying we didn't do wrong at times, and
But you had that solid foundation.
we had a very solid foundation. We had no excuses.
Right.
We had no excuses. If we'd gone wrong, it wouldn't have been their fault. We would have had nobody to blame but ourselves. Our children, we brought our children up, and our children are elders in churches, and most of them, all of them, good Christian people, and we are so proud of them, and that's what life is all about. Hey, we love the textiles, we love working, we love the opportunity of being the service, but we're on this earth to make it better.
Yeah.
Period. And this is a good way to do it. I can stay at home and do nothing, but it sure wouldn't be any fun.
Right.
This way we're in the middle of things, we can get things done. But we've been so blessed with our health, and with I can't walk, but I can do everything else. So I'm so blessed, and opportunity to be worth something.
Well, I have to ask that question then. You got a good genes, but what is your key? What do you think is the key for your longevity?
Well, I don't know. I made it through the war, which is very fortunate. I was in Europe in the infantry, and
Which branch?
Infantry.
In the Army?
Army. Yeah. I was a first lieutenant in the infantry. Well, I guess I've had good health. And my mama died at 90. My daddy died at 89. Their folks died in their 70s. Three of the four mamas, grandmamas, and granddaddies died in their 70s. One of the preachers died in his early 60s. Don't exactly know what was wrong with him, but he was sick for a long time. My daddy was the baby. He never really knew why his daddy died. But anyhow, I've lived so long, I don't know, the Lord's got a reason for it, so.
Yeah, there you go. You don't need a reason, right?
That's right. Whenever he says move, I'm gonna move. Whatever he says to give, I'm gonna give. And that's it.
Well, I know you mentioned your children. I know Harold and Richard who work here, and then you've got a daughter who's older than them. You have any other children other than those three?
Yeah, I got a son in Charlotte. He's the elder in the Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he's the oldest boy.
I'm going to get back to them, but first I want a little bit more information about the company. You got that $300 check. You were making a little living. How soon was it before you could hire some other sales folks to get out and sell Lang Ligon?
You know, that's a good question. That's a good question. I knew that I was fortunate enough to have a lot of friends in the textile industry. I had a lot of letters from them encouraging me. I mentioned it to them, and so I had letters saying that I could give to companies who were looking for bright young salesmen who would really increase their sales so much and stuff. And so I knew that there would be people clamoring for my services. But I found out that they had real good representatives over here. The people in the business was coming from Europe. I mean, the sources were coming in Europe. They're the ones that had the new plastic lug straps that would last forever, and the new picker sticks that would last forever, and all these new things that would do so good. But people who'd been in the business a lot longer than me, and they had teams, they already had all these good lines. But it didn't bother me because I knew all I had to do was go over to the textile show in, I believe the first textile show was, I don't remember which place in Europe. It was in Germany, but I forget where. Hamburg, I think. But anyhow, I went over there. I knew I'd get a lot of lines, but strangely enough, I didn't.
Oh, no.
So I found out that that was going to be a difficult thing. So I figured I was going to have to go in the used machinery business, which is not at all what I expected to do in the first place. I didn't want to get in the used textile machinery business because having worked in the new machine business, I knew that there were people who weren't honest in the used machinery business. But I was real surprised to find out that there were honest people in the used machinery business, and some of the most honest people I ever saw were in the used machinery business. You and I, let's say, were trading. You had something, and you wanted $10,000 for it, and I needed what you had. So I would say, okay, I'll give you $10,000 for it. And so you said, okay, you come get it. So I came and got it. I would come get it. You would let me have it. I wouldn't give you a penny. You'd let me go because you knew me. You've known me for a while. You let me have that, you wouldn't make me give you a cent. We wouldn't even have to shake hands on it. You let me, I'd take it home. You knew that within within less than a month, you'd have $10,000.
Yeah.
But you knew me, and I knew you. And most of the people would work like that. Now, there were other people that you couldn't do that. If you didn't know me too well, you said it's $10,000. I come over there to get it. You say, okay, where's my $10,000?
Yeah.
I give you the $10,000, and then I'd get the stuff. If I didn't have to give you $10,000, I wouldn't get the stuff. So I knew who to do business with,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed that. It gives you a feeling, a good feeling. There were people in Georgia, good people in Charlotte, two good people in Charlotte. On the telephone, all you had to do, whatever. And so anyhow, I was in the used machinery business for quite some time.
Let me ask you, what kind of machinery?
Winding, quilling, and stuff that I knew.
Okay.
I was limited in what I knew. And so I was in that for quite some time until about 1967, when I got a telephone call one time from somebody in New England who was from Italy, visiting from Italy to Draper, and they had asked Draper Research if they knew somebody who might be interested in handling their particular line of goods. And they recommended me because I had done some research work with their research department when I was working with Abbott Machine Company. We had a good relationship. We worked together good. And so they recommended he call me. So the fella called me, and he said that he represented Safati and Visciani, which was a company that made filling accumulators for shuttleless looms. And I said, you make what? He said, we make filling accumulators for shuttleless looms. I said, what'd that do? And he explained to me that a shuttleless loom doesn't use a shuttle. It takes the yarn across in different ways.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, they have to have something that gives you an even tension regardless of the size of the package that it's coming off of. And I said, well, that's interesting. He said, well, would you be interested? I said, well, I could be. God, I could be interested in getting a line, but to me, this was weaving. I had weaving experience because I worked at Judson Mill for 4 years in the weaving department, most of the time. But anyhow, so I met him down here in Virginia, in a place I'd never heard of before. But he came down to Virginia, and I met him on a Saturday, and we made a deal. And to make a long story short, there were no other filling accumulators in the U.S. at that time. We were the first people. Well, fortunately, they were great people. Safati Visciani, great. Mr. Safati is one of the finest men I've ever known in my life. Totally honest, so generous, a loving person, a kind person, a brilliant person, just a gentleman in every way. Everybody loved him. And he lived up until about 4 or 5 years ago. But anyhow, had many years of working with him. And he was basically what made our company, because by far the largest supplier of fillet accumulators in America. And that's what made our company. Now, all of that's changed because now there is no weaving to speak of like it was at that time, as you well know. And that company's gone out of business now because he died out and he was the company. And but we were able to start working with another company who is excellent, that also sells fillet accumulators for shutters looms, but their primary product is in knitting. They have done so well.
What company is that?
LGL. LGL. They've just done so great. So this company now, Ligon Company now, is course in weaving, but weaving is not big anymore. It's knitting, because that's where it is.
But it seems like one phone call in 1967 changed the direction of the company.
No question.
Which that first line led to other lines from Europe,
That's
mostly
right.
based in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And LGL, I'm not sure when you started business with them, but you're still serving them.
I'm sorry.
You're still serving LGL.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're the knitting.
Yeah.
They both lining and both knitting, both weaving and knitting. But they're so heavy in knitting now because that's where it is right now.
Yeah.
And so, of course, now we are also in other parts of the business rather than just LGL, but they are very big with us and very important with us. But we also have several other different lines which are very interesting.
And I know you don't really want to do business with someone who you don't consider honest. You've obviously established some really good relationships with these companies. Tell me about how you've come to meet these families, most of them family-owned companies, and spend time with them over the years.
Well, for instance, I guess with Zafata and Visciani, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of supply parts over here on consignment. That's really a no-no. I mean, that's something that I never realized how much money was involved. Never paid any attention to it. I never paid attention to inventory and stuff like that. The girl took care of all that, but we had so much money of Zafata and Visciani. We kept perfect. We had everything was on computer, and we paid them once a month and stuff like that. But I guess that's one reason I see Mr. Zafata was so trustworthy. We wouldn't have taken a penny of his. But I mean, I think if we were crooked, we wouldn't have taken anything from him. He's such a nice guy. But I don't remember exactly why you asked the question, but we, to my knowledge, we figure it this way. if you have to think over 5 seconds if something's right or wrong, it's wrong. Ain't no use to talk anymore about it, no use to think anymore about it. You know, you got a conscience. The Lord gives us a conscience.
Yeah.
And so, anyhow, if you have to think over 5 seconds around it, forget it. You ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's wrong. So, and we haven't had any problem. If we have, I don't know about them. And no, we just haven't had any problem. No, life's too short.
Yeah. Well, you had 2 boys join the company. That must have been felt good to you to have them follow in your footsteps. I believe Harold came on early and Richard came on later. Tell me about that.
Yeah, yeah. Harold graduated from in early 70s from Clemson. Now Clemson, there was some kind of arrangement they had with this outfit in Virginia, I believe, where certain chosen people, and I think Mr. Milliken was the one that.
I think you're talking about ITT.
ITT,
in Charlottesville, yeah.
Yeah. There were scholarships given or something, and Harold was appointed or given or whatever a scholarship to ITT, which was, of course, quite an honor, as we understood it at that time. Because he did make good grades and he did make good records. And so, naturally, it was a thing to do because he was going into textiles. It would be helpful to him. He would be working with some people who he would be working with the rest of his life. It'd be helpful for the company, it'd be helpful for him. But I got to thinking, well, Mr. Sarfati, this is in the 70s now. I've been with him since 67, Sarfati. And so let's say Harold's in 72 or 73. Mr. Sarfati had been on me, he said, "Lang, you're going to have to get something could happen to you. You could get in a wreck or something like that, and then we'd have a problem. So you need to get some help in there." So I told Harold, I said, "Harold, either you go there or forget going to work with me, because I got to get somebody." Well, he decided to come with us. So that's when Harold came. Now, Richard came along much later. He would be in the, I guess in the 80s sometime, when Stevens was ramping down. Might have been in, I guess it's the 80s, middle 80s maybe. That time passes go by, it passes so fast.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we were getting pretty busy, and we were needing some help. We need the kind of help that he was able to give. It was kind of a godsend because he is very methodical. It's really amazing the way the two work together. They have the same goals, but they work differently. moves fast like this. The other one, he's thinking everything that he, and they just work so well together that they harmonize so well, I guess is the word to say, that you can't help but laugh every once in a while. They just fit in together. They need each other.
Yeah.
One without the other would not be too good, but the two of them together equal three. Yeah. So it's, they never argue, they work good, but they don't work the same way. They do different things much better. Each one of them does what they do much better than the other can. If I want somebody to explain something to me, I don't ask Harold. He's too fast. I don't know what he's talking about the time he's through. I get Richard, he's slow and he tells me to do it. But now if I want something else for a certain thing, I'll ask Harold, and Harold would do it. So it's just, we're just blessed all the way around.
And each one of them has a distinct role at the company. I mean, I know Harold, he's out of the office in sales and technical support all the time, and Richard, I guess he's doing a lot of the.
He keeps things moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything pretty well revolves around Richard, but the business stuff and new stuff revolves around Harold. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I know he's a pilot and he flies to a lot of customers. I don't know if he does it every week or once a month, but he's on the road quite a bit.
Yep, that's where he needs to be. And he's so good when he's working with the people in Europe. So he goes over there. He enjoys languages. Richard ain't interested in that. I'm not interested in that. I can't speak anything. Richard can't speak much anything to speak of. He's not interested in that. He's interested in something else. Harold is interested, and he wows anybody. They love him. He goes to our people over there, and he does wonderfully with them. And so, very much of an asset.
Tell me about your employee numbers. What was your peak in terms of?
Well, probably, I think the most people, I've always tried to keep less than 20 people. And I think the most we've ever had is 19. I never wanted to get over 20 because you start running into, at one time, if you had over 20 people, you started running into certain things. I forget what it was. I think now it's 49, the last I heard. But if you had over 20 people, you had to do certain things, or you had certain limitations, and you had to do certain ways. So I always kept it down. In fact, I've had 4 different companies at one time, thinking, and at one time you could do it. At one time we had 4 different S corporations doing approximately the same thing, but they had different lines, because you could get over 20, but I don't think but it would have allowed us to do it, but I don't think we ever went over it. But we really didn't go over the 20, the 19.
Was there ever a time when the industry was making its drastic downturn that there was a time when you weren't sure if the company was going to make it through?
No. It's strange that you asked it, but we've had times we lost money, but we had times that we made a good bit of money. And when we did, we didn't spend it. We kept it within the company. So we always had that to draw on. So no, it never occurred that we'd go out of business.
Good, good. That was an unfortunate story for so many companies back in the day.
It's an unfortunate story for so many families.
Yes.
So many individuals. Whatever you make, you spend. That's not a smart thing to do.
Were you always in this building, or was this another? Did you start somewhere else?
Oh no, we had first building we really built was over there on 385. You know where Duke's Sandwich Shop is? We built that building right across from Duke's Sandwich Shop. Yeah. Next time you go by there, you look across the street. That's our building. We built that. We were the first building on that road.
Wow.
We were the first building on this road, except for an electric company down here that was tied in with who's that built all the buildings around? Daniels Construction Company. They had one building down here on the right that they did all the Daniels electrical work. This was the only building between the bridge and 16.
Wow.
Besides that thing there, we didn't have any. You see, we didn't have. What was it? We didn't have something. Didn't have water.
No.
We had to put, well, about 6 of us had to put water down here.
Is that right?
Yeah. But anyhow, we came out here in 75.
Okay. And you built the facility here on Pelham Road? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had this, I forget, 90-some odd acres, yeah, I think.
Have you expanded?
We've expanded 3 times, yeah.
Okay. Based on business and things like that?
Yeah.
Harold has mentioned to me when I've had conversations with him that the company has really lived by the golden rule, and that's even on your website. Talk to me about that as a differentiator for Lang, Ligon & Company and how that's helped contribute to your success.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do. I don't. I don't have a comment on that. It's just the fact that that's what you're supposed to do.
That's right. It shouldn't be a big deal, should it?
It is no.
Well, these days it's hard to find companies that really abide by that, I would think.
Well, the point is, well, you don't have to be Christian to believe that necessarily, although that's what the Lord said. if you take care of a man's needs, you don't have to sell him. Everybody has needs. You need some help in whatever you do. If I can help you and relieve you of some of your problems, you're going to come to me when you have a problem. You're not going to go to Joe or Jim or something like that. You're going to come to me because you want some help right quick. And I'm going to help you. And so I don't have to pat you on the back or kiss your fanny or do anything like that. I'm just normally going to help you. And so you're going to come to me, and so it's just a common sense in the first place, and it's a Christian way to do in the second sense. Reversing, it should stem from the Christian aspect, but it's common sense in the second place. If you take care of other people, they're going to take care of you most of the time.
That's right.
But if you want to get it your way all the time, you're going to have to dig all your life.
Well, I'd like to back up just a little bit and talk about the industry's changing, and it's always changed, but you've seen many things and you've met many people, and now the industry's sort of on a mini comeback. Tell me about the highs and lows of the company and the industry and the friends you made, and any stories that you may have related to that may come to mind.
Well, the thing that concerns me really is it's the fact that things are becoming so complicated now that belatedly we are starting to train people at places like Greenville, like Tech, but the knowledge is so far ahead of I don't know how to say it. I guess the technical stuff is so far ahead of the knowledge that it's so difficult for the mills to run today. It's amazing what of the lack of knowledge that people in the mill have when it comes to running the equipment that is coming out now. The people who make the equipment have these very smart guys make this equipment. They make the software. They make all the stuff to make it work good. They throw it out into the mill, and they got people who no more know what you're talking about when you explain it to them. You're talking to Greek to them, and I think we're getting so far ahead of the ability of the people, and whether or not the technical schools are going to be able to, and they've been talking about it a long time. The problem is when they come out, they know some of this stuff, but they haven't. It takes them a long time to get it to where it becomes second nature to them. Now, when you and I were, when you were coming along, man, you could look at a piece of machinery or something like that, you could pretty well figure out what you had to do to set that thing to make it work. You could pretty well do that. But not anymore, because you got to push something 3 times and then push this over here and push this down, boom, because that's what the software says you have to do. But how am I going to remember that? When I got 50 looms out there, I got to do that too.
Right.
Now this is scary.
It is, and it's a big issue for the industry, the skills gap, and the fact that not many young folks are interested, and a lot of that is to blame on the bad perception of manufacturing, and also the fact that their parents were laid off at this company or that company. They don't want to get into manufacturing, and maybe there's a pride thing too. They don't take pride in working in that kind of environment anymore. But
you cannot get people to go back in the textile industry. They don't want to. We cannot, as you know better than me, you cannot get people to go into textile.
And then you have to train them to hit all those buttons you mentioned.
Totally different.
Yeah, it's
Totally
not
different.
intuitive, I guess.
We have the same thing, you know, we have a machine shop too. We have a machine shop with about 42 employees on the machine shop. And CNC equipment, welding, all that sort of stuff. And it's difficult. It's difficult to get people who are really good at what they're doing. Programming is so important in that. And you have so few. We've been trying to get programmers for a long time. They're in demand. You can't get them. But anyhow, so it's not just a textile, it's in a lot of things.
Well, you obviously had the background of coming up in the textile family. You were interested in it, you got into it, and then a light bulb went off and you started the company. What is your advice today for anyone that may have that entrepreneurial spirit to start a company? What would you give them as a talking point?
You know, I wish I had gems of wisdom to express. I've had so many things given to me that I can't say that I have done anything that made our company a success. I can't say that, well, we did scheme A and scheme B and scheme C. And so this is the reason that we were a successful company. I cannot give you one idea that I had, because the one idea I did have was that I had $13,000 to keep my family going, and the company started. My daughter in Queens College for 1 year, and I knew a whole lot of people, and I had friends with, and I knew I could get a job selling parts. Well, number one, I couldn't get a job selling parts because they wasn't out there. And so what I thought I had, I didn't have. But something showed up, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and I think the Lord brought me through. I wish I had something to tell.
No, that's good.
I mean, I don't have a secret.
Yeah.
Well, but I do have one bit of advice. You got to be ready to work your tail off. If you're not willing to work your tail off, then don't do it.
That's right. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it.
That's exactly right. I've seen the time and I didn't know where the money was coming in to pay this or pay that, but I didn't worry about it when it came in. And I never got chewed out. But I never did any smart things that I know of, except I did what I thought was the best thing to do, and I never laid anybody down that I knew of. But that's normal. You're not supposed to. I just did what was right.
Yeah. And to me, that is sage wisdom for any person individually or any person in a company or should live their life like that. So.
Well, you just got to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just do what's right.
Right.
But of course, there are a lot of good people that do what's right and go broke.
That's true.
So it takes a lot of things, but you never know. You never know.
Well, Mr. Lang Ligon, it has been a pleasure to talk to you today. You've been so blessed to be in the textile industry, I guess 70 or more years, and be on this company for over 50 years. I just think you're a role model for a lot of people, and I'm glad you've shared your story with us today. Do you have any parting words?
Well, I appreciate the chance just to talk to you, and I thank you for taking your precious time to talk with me. It's always good to recognize the fact that there's a higher power than ourselves in charge, and that a lot of times things don't look as good as we would like to see them, but we know who's in charge. And the things are going to work out because the Lord's in charge.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
That's right.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you,
I
sir.
really, really appreciate it.
Right. Good
All
boy.
right. Take care.
Thank you, sir.